Hi, everyone. We have Brad Robinette here from Quadscore. I'd like to introduce you to him. And Brad, tell me a little bit about yourself. What brings you here to Miami today?
So, again, Brad Robinette, Quadscore Insurance. We are a specialty MGA strictly focused on licensed cannabis operators across the United States. So we provide P&C solutions to large single-state operators to the large, multi-state operators. So that's been our bread and butter. Awesome. What brings me to Miami is to meet with yours truly.
Yep.
So I head up our retail and wholesale distribution in the West Coast, the Northeast, and for all of our hub partners. So awesome. That is why I'm in Florida right now.
Awesome. So yeah, Brad actually helped me with one of my clients who he is in California right now, and he actually opened up a new facility in Michigan. So I contacted Brad because he is the guy in cannabis, and he helped me secure some terms for my client. Thank you, Brad, for that. Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about how you ended up in this cannabis space.
Sure. So it was a colleague at my previous employer in my past life. She knew I was on the job search, and she recommended I reach out to one of her friends who just launched a cannabis MGA in Atlanta, Georgia. And I thought that was very interesting because, my previous role, I was doing environmental, kind of a very niche industry. Mm-hmm. So, I kind of gravitate towards those niche underserved segments. So cannabis, I felt like was a great opportunity to come in at a company that was young. We only launched in 2018. I joined Quadscore in late 2019. So I was definitely a part of the kind of early growth stages, mm-hmm. and it's kind of cool to look back at
awesome.
What it was back then to what it is now. So that's how I got into it. It's basically literally a friend of a friend, and it's definitely a change when you go from a large carrier. I was an underwriter at a large carrier beforehand, where you go to basically a startup mm-hmm. cannabis MGA. So there's definitely a lot of growing pains, but in my personal experience, it's been tremendous for my own personal growth, mm-hmm. And to watch our company kind of grow in line with
and the
cannabis.
Industry too, right? Yeah. Of course, because it's fairly new, and with all the new states and coming into play, that's awesome that you got in there early.
Mm-hmm.
And so, is cannabis legal recreational in Georgia? Do you guys have a lot of MGAs there, or is it one of the only ones?
So we are the only cannabis MGA pretty much in the entire state of Georgia, pretty much on the East Coast. We have one competitor that is technically headquartered in Tennessee. But in Atlanta and Georgia as a whole, it's medical only. Mm-hmm. There's only 6 operators who have a license there. And it's, in order to get a medical card as a consumer, it's one of, I think 8 qualifying conditions. So it's not widely available. It's not a big cannabis market whatsoever. Right. Hopefully it starts trending in that direction, but the Southeast as a whole, mm-hmm. outside of Florida, has definitely been kind of slow to follow, the West Coast, and now, kind of more recently the growth in the Northeast.
Yeah. And what states would you say, or what state it would be your biggest, where you see the most growth recently?
So most growth, I would say in terms of just sheer presence of operators, obviously California is going to be number one, right? Mm-hmm. Just because it's such a big state, and it's been, kind of forefront of the cannabis industry for such a long time. The kind of growth markets that we see largely it kind of originates in the Northeast, mm-hmm. right? Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, New Jersey now is they just opened up the one of the first dispensaries had their first recreational sales like 2 weeks ago. Wow. So that's definitely the entire Northeast as a whole is definitely a big kind of opportunity mm-hmm. zone for mm-hmm. us. Outside of the Northeast, outside of California, Illinois, Michigan, those are 2 states that are poised to become one of the kind of, top growth states for cannabis. Right. And, in the Pacific Northwest, it's a little saturated. It's a more mature market out there. So we don't see that as a big opportunity for us. Oregon, Washington, they're unlimited licensure states. Meaning, it's not difficult to get a cannabis license and kind of launch your own company. There's not really too many barriers to entrance. So, there's a lot of competition, which, has that downward pressure on mm-hmm. pricing. And a lot of these cannabis operators up there aren't really making much money. So, we focus a lot of our, efforts and whatnot on the states that have these limited licensure setups. So obviously Florida medical market, I think we said there's 22 licenses right now. Definitely kind of MSO dominated because there are those high barriers to entrance. But another state that kind of mirrors that is Arizona. And within my marketing territory, that's a state we have a lot of emphasis on because there are, I think just south of 100 licenses right now. And it's a big market for cannabis.
Yeah. So close to California and
Sure.
everything else. And so Quadscore works with just licensed cannabis.
Sure. So one thing that differentiates us from our competitors is our strict focus is cannabis, whereas there's other markets that will do cannabis, CBD, Delta 8, hemp, all of that is out of appetite for us. We have strict expertise in cannabis in states where it's either medically or recreationally legal.
And how do you keep up to date with all these different state requirements? Because I know for the Michigan one, I was, kind of sidetracked on that one because I'm so used to working in the California space that when I got hit with the Michigan state, it's, it's completely different. So how do you keep up to date with all these different state requirements?
Sure. And I think it's a responsibility that, we owe to our retail brokers to stay on top of, current states' regulations and whatnot, because, a lot of these states are coming online quick and they're launching their rec programs quick, and it's easy to get kind of lost in the minutia of what, the insurance requirements are per state. So that's, something that we definitely specialize in, keep a pulse on for sure. One of my first duties when I joined Quadscore was building out a kind of state regulatory map, going state by state. What are the insurance requirements for each state? Smart. A lot of them traditionally have been fairly straightforward, GL policies and whatnot, which is,
product liability.
Yeah, and if you're occupying a building, your landlord's going to make you carry GL,
right.
Correct property coverage, all that. But there's definitely some states that present a little nuance. And, we had that experience with Michigan where, they have two House bills. One was recently approved for cannabis liability, or not approved, but I guess the legislation was passed, where it's similar to, the dram shop laws you see in, the entertainment space, where, retail dispensaries in Michigan need to carry X amount of limit for cannabis liability to, better insulate the dispensary owner from any potential liability, especially with these consumption lounges and whatnot. So that's one thing, and we have a solution for that. The other thing that has been it's been around for a little bit longer is that proof of financial responsibility coverage, or, commonly known as just attestation coverage. And that's just essentially a $100K product liability policy that doesn't have any exclusions. So that's something that, has definitely differentiated us from the rest of the marketplace, because we've been able to provide that solution in conjunction with our ability to offer, package policies for, not just the large operators that are solely present in Michigan, but for the multi-state operators that have that footprint in Michigan that, the retail brokers have kind of been beating their head against the wall because they don't, have a solution
with no
for.
exclusions. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So that's been a big differentiator for us in Michigan, and definitely some continued growth is expected in that state for us.
Good stuff. Well, I'm super happy to have you on here to help me and for all your help and all your knowledge. It's really good to have someone like that, to piggyback off of.